Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Tech Motoring. Well, we have recently sold some cars and we have recently bought some cars. And in the process, we now have to change our way of charging our vehicles in our garage. So stick with me as we go over what we're doing to change our charging methods in my garage. Alright, well, some of you may know that I just recently bought a new Tesla Model 3 Performance. That is going to be our new EV. Now, for those of you who have been with the channel long enough, you know that a little over 2 years ago, we actually purchased our first EV, which was a 2017 Hyundai Ioniq EV with a 28 kilowatt hour usable battery. Now, that car very easily charged over 120 volts over the course of a day's time. You can get a pretty deep charge in that vehicle using this cable right here, actually. And at the time, that was the only way that we can actually charge our vehicle, was utilizing that 120 volt, as we did not have a level 2 station at the time, being our first EV. So I put together this little overhead cabling system where you can see it's plugged into just your standard 120 volt outlet. It goes up and around, and there's this overhead cable that I have coming down. And it worked really well for that particular vehicle for that particular time. And it was easy because as long as we backed the car into the garage in this particular spot, this cable reached perfectly fine for that vehicle. Well, later on, we ended up buying a level 2 Electrify America home station charger for the garage, which gave us a little bit faster charging if necessary, and that pretty much reaches anywhere in the garage regardless of which direction the car is facing. And then of course, a little while later, just about 1 year ago, I bought a second EV, which was the Mustang Mach-E. So that car, having a much larger battery, definitely benefits from having the faster level 2 charging station in the garage versus the 120 volt style, which is what we have here and what we have right here. However, in the event that we have to charge both vehicles at once, it's always a good option to have 120 volt backup, just in case I need to charge not only the Mach-E, but in this case, now the Tesla, or what used to be our Hyundai Ioniq. So what we're doing today is we're going to be changing up a little bit of how we do it. So instead of having this overhead cable here, I'm actually just going to run the Tesla mobile connector that actually came with the car, and I'm going to mount that in the wall, very similar to how I have the Hyundai one mounted there. So we're going to be removing this out of the picture. We're going to be taking it off the ceiling, off the wall, and then taking that out. And then we have a really cool method of keeping this organized against the wall so we can utilize it. So let's take a look at that. Now, if you are familiar with the original episode where I actually ran this cable up and around, you'll notice that I had 3D printed some parts to make this happen. The orange holders for the Hyundai charger back there, and also the J1772 plug to hold the plug here, the holster for this plug. And so I printed these 3D parts to make it a little easier for us to use the charging equipment in the garage, to keep it up and out of the way, and of course just keeping the J1772 safely plugged into a holster, so this way no damage occurred to it. So this time we're doing a very similar thing. We are going to be 3D printing, or actually I already did 3D print some parts here, and we're going to be utilizing this for our Tesla mobile connector to permanently install this in our garage. So one of the first things we have here is just the Mobile Connect holster for the actual charger itself. So the actual charger that comes out of the wall will sit into this little cradle here, and that will keep the charger settled against the wall, and it'll also make it easier to remove it in the event that I have to take the charger with me. Then we also have the thought of, well, how are we going to wrap up the cable, since we're not going to be doing this overhead solution? And also, how are we going to holster the charging handle? Well, that comes in this solution right here. And this is something that I 3D printed. And I'll put a link down in the description of where I get these. So if you do 3D print, and this is something you might be interested in for your EV or your vehicle, you can 3D print these yourself and do exactly what I did. So I printed this out, which is basically just a cable wrap. So this will go against the wall. You could wrap your cable around this, and then of course you have the holster right here for the charging handle for the Tesla charger, which is really, really cool. So now that I've showed you all that, I'm gonna hit you with a 3D printing montage of the process of what I did with these. And then when you get back, I'm gonna get started on getting this stuff installed. But first I gotta get this stuff removed. All right, well, I hope you like that printer montage. So anyway, I'm gonna get started on this, pulling off this, all these up across the top, and then all these little cable holders here. And then once I yank all those out, I gotta take that J1772 holster down, and then we also have to take care of that as well. So I'm gonna get started on all this, and then we'll see you when we get started on the install side of it. All right, so gotta line up for the little holster for the actual charger itself. So we just slide that on. There we go, that looks good. Put that right where that is, and then I'm gonna just mark off where it is, and we'll have the location of where we need to put that. It's pretty cool, it's got the little Tesla logo on the side there. So let me go get this installed, and then we'll move on. All right, well, we got the charger plugged into the wall now, so now we have to mount the actual cable holster and the charging handle holster, whatever you want to call that. And we're gonna probably put that right about here or so. I'll have to figure this out a little bit better, but the cool thing about it is it's got this little slot in the back, and what you do is you mount this to the wall first, and then this actually just gets mounted, and then the charging holster just kind of slides on top of that, mounts it to the wall, so this way you have no holes through the front of it. And pretty neat design. I really like that. Let's go ahead and get this mounted up. All right, well, finished product. We have the charger mounted to the wall right here in this little cradle. Of course, it's easily removable by just unplugging it, pulling it straight up. So if I ever needed to take it with me, easy enough. We have the cable wrapped around this very nicely 3D printed setup here, mounted to the wall. And of course, the charging handle, which then kind of sits in there just like any other Tesla charging system. So now let's give this the test here. So I want to charge my Tesla that's right here. Trying to do this one-handed. Let's see if I can. There we are, coming up to the Tesla. Let's hit the button. See if we get what we need. All right, plugging in. Got the blue light. It's making sounds. Charger just clicked
over and we got the green light. So there we go. There is the charging setup for my Tesla.
All right, everybody, well, there you go. So that is my new charging setup in my garage for my two EVs. So this is in the event that I just need to charge two EVs at once. I do have the 120 volt setup just in case I need it, just in case I need to charge both cars. Now, to answer a couple questions before I get them in the comments. Yes, I see that I'm plugging this into a shared outlet. What I typically do when I do this is I actually will lower the amperage draw on the car itself, so I won't pull the full 12 amps that the charger is capable of. I won't do that. It's too much for these 120 volt outlets, so I just lower the amperage just in case I need to use these other outlets for anything else. So as long as I taper down the power on what the car is drawing from those outlets, everything should be safe. And that should really go for anybody who has an EV. If you're charging your EV over 120 volt garage outlet and it's just 120 volts and you're just got a standard like 15 amp breaker, it's always best to try to pull a little less than the full power that the charger can take, because if it's pulling 12 amps, you don't really have too much more headroom. If you try to plug in like really anything that pulls just a couple more amps, you're going to end up either popping a breaker or, even worse, possibly melting some wires. So that's why I always like to draw down the power just a little bit in the car and make sure that you have some extra headroom in the event that you need to use the outlets at the same time. But typically I'm either charging the car or I unplug the car before I actually use any of the other outlets in the garage. Now, the other question is, what happens if I'm charging the Tesla over the 240 volt Electrify America level 2 station and I want to just trickle charge or slowly charge the Mach-E? Well, that's where something like this comes in handy. And this is the Electron Tesla to J1772 adapter. Now, I did a review on this a little while back, and this is a really nice product to have in your own garage, or even if you're out in public somewhere, where you can charge your J1772 vehicle off of a Tesla plug, which is what this side is. And so if you have one of these, you can actually utilize, both sides of the spectrum just from, one plug in your garage, which is what a lot of people do. And this is good for up to 40 amps. And, this is 120 volts. This is not going to pull more than 12 amps at the very maximum. So these are really cool to have. And I'm going to be leaving this in the garage just in case I need to charge up the Mach-E for some reason with a 120 volt system as opposed to the level 2. I hope this video helped you out. Once again, if you are into 3D printing, go ahead and take a look at those links below and you can look at some 3D printable things for your EV or possibly for your garage for charging your EV, as you can see right here. And for me, this is a big change because now that I own a different charging standard vehicle, the Tesla, and the J1772 Mach-E, now I have to have basically two different standards in my garage in order to charge those. Now, of course, you do get the charging thing that comes with Tesla, but then you got to keep bringing that in and out of your vehicle. Some people like to keep them in your vehicle like I do, just in case they ever go out to a public station and they have only J1772 adapters. I always like to keep that in the car all the time. And so this solution works out for me because I can charge both my vehicles off of the level 2 Electrify America home station, or if I absolutely need to, I can charge both vehicles at the exact same time using this 110 volt. Regardless of what vehicle this gets plugged into, I can still utilize it. Well, everybody, thank you very much for stopping by on this episode. I hope you liked it. If you did, give it the thumbs up. Of course, check us out on our website, techmotoring.com, facebook.com/techmotoring, on Twitter @techmotoring. Check us out on our website. We have a lot of new big updates coming out this year. Of course, with the Tesla being new, we're going to have a lot of videos coming up for the Tesla itself. And obviously, we're going to be taking it on some road trips this year as well and see how this supercharging network works, because that is something that's going to be new to me. I've never owned a Tesla before. This is my first one. Really looking forward to doing a different charging network from what I've been used to the last 2 years, which has been Electrify America primarily, a little bit of ChargePoint, and a little bit of others. But other than that, I'm really excited to get this car out on the road. So make sure you stay tuned to the channel and subscribe. Anyway, I'd like to thank you again for watching today's episode. Remember, welcome to the future. Welcome to Tech Motoring, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Take a look at this. I just came up with a really cool solution for the J1772 to Tesla adapter. I could leave it right here, and I could reuse the J1772 holster that I had. That's awesome. There we go. Looks good.